We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani, and welcome. It's Monday morning. I hope you had an amazing weekend. I hope that you were able to connect. The weather's beautiful, depending upon what part of the world you're in. Listen, we're diving back in. We began a series called Micro Cheating, and that opened up Pandora's box into a conversation about why we chose the one that we did, or why our spouse chose the one that he or she did, which then took us into the space of really unpacking this whole idea of a dangerous partner profile. And I said that we would take our time with this because there's so many different components to what this thing is really all about. And so I'm excited to get back into a conversation with you on this morning and throughout the course of this week. But listen, before we get started, listen, this weekend is our last chance weekend. April 8th through the 10th, We start on Friday, we end on Sunday, 36 hours of transformation. I'd rather do 36 hours and experience an aha moment, a breakthrough, a transformation, than taking 36 weeks of hourly sessions to do the same. And so if that's you, if you're interested, reach out to us. We would love to have you join this special group that we have coming this particular weekend. Listen, we're going to go to this video about the Last Chance Weekend, and we'll be right back. Stay right there. All right, guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy Show. We're talking about the Dangerous Partner Profile Part 2. But listen, share. This is some information we want all of you to engage in. So push that share button so it goes out all throughout the world. Now, just as a quick recap, we were talking about the Dangerous Partner Profile and the fact that there are 8 components attached to it. And once again, what is a dangerous partner profile? A dangerous partner profile is someone who you have an instant attraction for, though they probably would not be a good fit for a long-term partnership. There's a reason why you didn't choose them as a primary partner, but there is a reason why you chose them to be involved in an affair, one that hides in the shadow of the primary partner. And we talked about the 8 components, right? We talked about developmental lag and how oftentimes, because of things that we've experienced in our childhood, we didn't have the proper mental, emotional development as an adult or as a child into adulthood. And so sometimes we slip back into the space of our immaturity or our childishness, and we find connections with other people based upon that. And then really responding to some of your questions, we kind of shifted into this whole idea of personality styles, right? That's the second component. Because my partner has a personality that is thus and so, this particular person over here has a different type of personality. And it's not that it is better, it is just different. You know, when you've gotten settled in a relationship for a long amount of time, you know, there's a normalcy, there's a predictability to things, and you're looking for something new and or different, and you find it in that particular person. But now let's go to the third component. I think we can get through a couple today. The third component. Now remember, affairs, micro-cheating, oftentimes do not necessarily have to do with, man, I'm just so physically drawn to you and I don't know how to contain myself. Usually it's something else. And as a result of that something else, yes, also happens to be attractive. And so it can go in that space, but it doesn't oftentimes start in that space. We say all the time, the affair typically doesn't start in the bedroom, it ends in the bedroom. And if the only thing that we're defining as an affair is activities inside of a bedroom, we've missed it. It's how we show up in the bedroom, but how we show up outside of the bedroom, and how we show up on the outside usually starts way before we even get to that place. Does that make sense? And so the third component of the dangerous partner profile, what I find instantly attractive about this particular person, is that we have shared hobbies and interests, right? An individual who shares similar interests to you, and that becomes an attraction. So in essence, we're both attracted to the same thing. We have a love for the same thing. We have a desire for the same thing. And oftentimes, because we are in pursuit of the same thing, there's got to be some commonality. There's got to be some connection, right? Think about a relationship. It's having an interaction with someone who you can relate to. And so this is how these bonds are formed. This is how instant attraction could be formed. Like, oh my God, you're into that too? I mean, my God, man, I just wish my wife, I wish my husband, you know? So there's something that you can immediately talk about. There's something that you immediately connect over. And that connection, those conversations form a chemistry, right? They form a bond that you may not have in your actual relationship. Because it could be possible that your spouse just isn't into that. And if they're just not into that, it's something that you just don't talk about. I remember being in college. And I remember I was an African-American studies major, and so I was really into history and books and breaking down philosophy and culture and politics and all that stuff. And my girlfriend at the time just was not interested. Like, she was just like, oh, God, like, talk about that with your friends. I'm not interested. And so I would have to find friends to engage in conversation, long, deep conversation that I could not have with her because that just wasn't something she was interested in. And so I felt like something was missing. There was a void. Now, there was no infidelity. There was no cheating. Luckily, I was a part of an organization where I was surrounded by a bunch of people, right? Black student organization on our college campus. So I had a lot of people to connect to, but I was looking to connect with her in that space intellectually. There wasn't anything there. And so whether it's an intellectual connection you're looking for, a recreational connection you're looking for, a spiritual connection, maybe that's what it is. Like, you are a person of faith. Your spouse really isn't into that, or they're into something different. And so a major aspect of your relationship, there's a void, something's missing because you just don't have it there. And interestingly enough, because your spouse isn't interested, that can often inhibit your ability to engage in that particular activity. Let's just say you love playing golf, right? And you would love to, let's go out, let's go on the green. Oh, I'm not into that. I'm not trying to do that. And so you feel like, oh, like when we were dating, you knew I loved golf, and we went on the green every now and then. And now that we're in a relationship, you don't have the time, or you're not interested. Well, how does that impact the spouse? Well, if it's something that you don't want to do, but it's something that takes time to do. When people go golfing, they could be out there for hours, right? They could be out there 6, 7, 8 hours because it's intense. Now it impacts the marriage. So I will, you know what? Fine. I'm not going to go because you don't want to go. And now because I'm out there for 8, 9, 10 hours, you have a problem with that. And so now I feel like this passion, this desire, this hobby that I have that I really want to experience, I can't experience because you don't want to be there. So now I'm suppressing something. Now I feel like a disappointment within me. And then I find somebody who happens to be a member of the opposite sex, and they're wearing golf gear, and they got a balls, and they got just everything, all the stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God, instant attraction. Do you see how that can happen? So it's not just a physical thing. I want us to get out of that space. It's not like there's something uniquely physically better about that person. There are other culprits, if you will, side doors to our heart and our mind that can cause a problem. We're talking about the dangerous partner profile. Hopefully you're getting something out of this conversation. We're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be back and go a little bit deeper.
Couples Academy is expanding its team to meet the growing demand of people in need of help around the world. So if you're a trained, licensed, or certified expert in marriage enrichment, infidelity recovery, sex therapy, life coaching, cognitive behavioral therapy, divorce mediation, financial coaching, or family therapy, contact us today.
Good morning, everyone. We're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Let me just give a quick shout out to Derek, Rashawn, Miss Jules, the Brown Bunch, Ralph Welch, Shalise, Lisa Gonzalez, Sharon, Nina, Darrow, Jackie, Felicia, Deblin, hey Nellie Belly, Gorgeous Wells. The list goes on and on. Cooking X2. Many of you are on here. DFLO, Debbie and Jody. Good to have you on this morning. We're talking about the dangerous partner profile and the components that lead to that. And in continuing this conversation, we were just talking about this whole idea of hobbies and interests. And so whether that hobby or interest happens to be a sport, or maybe there's some type of recreation that you really enjoy engaging in, whether it's camping or hiking. I remember I had a client, they were together for 35 years, and they really struggled after, the affair. Anyway, he was an outdoorsy, recreational type of guy, and would go camping, and he would go hunting. And, his wife, traveled a lot, couldn't do it, wasn't interested in doing it. Did do it occasionally, but really didn't do it as much as he had wanted. And so he would go on these guy trips, and then, all of a sudden he's inviting a female who also likes to boom, right? And so one thing leads to another, and he's in this full-blown affair because there was an attraction there. And so this is why we say it's so critically important in this space to begin to do things together. Like recreational companionship is one of the emotional needs that exists within a relationship. And so sometimes it's okay to step outside of what you typically like to do to really come alongside your partner and love them through that activity. I talk about this all the time, how Danielle used to be into Lifetime movies, and I would want to commit suicide if I had to watch a Lifetime movie. And so I would just be like, oh God, all right, I'll watch it with you, babe. And so she knew I didn't like it, but she liked it. And so it was a way for me to love her through the activity. After a while, I'm like, okay, they're still bad. They're still bad. But I got into certain reality shows that she liked, that I now like. Now I'm, catching her up on what's going on, right? So sometimes you'll discover things that you do enjoy if you're willing to step outside of your framework and try something uniquely new and different. Or maybe you can engage in your spouse's activity in a non-involved way, sometimes just being present, right? Just showing up and lending support is really all that they need. It's not about you loving what they love. You're different and it's okay. They don't have to love what you love, but supporting you is another thing. And then guess what? Create hobbies and rituals that you two enjoy together, right? So whatever need that is that people have to connect in that particular way, they can find it with you. All right, so let's go into the next attachment pattern, because this is a strong one. Component number 4. I just said it. Let's go into the next attachment pattern. The next component is the attachment pattern, okay? That's what it is. And an attachment pattern, really, it's a cluster of behaviors, all right, that make an individual appealing. And so oftentimes there's a attachment or a relational dynamic that you find in this affair relationship that currently doesn't exist in your marriage. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. So for instance, your spouse happens to be strong, independent, right? They're very competent. They're very capable. There's an independence about them, a self-sufficiency about them. Now let's just assume that you're a person who desires to help. Let's just say you're a 2 as an example, because we know that 2s are helpers, but I don't want to get into Enneagram. I'm just making a point. So you have this independent, strong, I can do for myself, not in a negative way. I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying they're competent individuals. And so there's less of a dependency on you, but something within you feels like there's a part of you that can't be expressed in that relationship because of your desire to want to help, to support, to add on, to get, whatever it is. And so you find yourself somehow drawn and connected to someone who's clingy, to someone who's needy, to someone who's desperate to be rescued. We've had many couples where a spouse found themselves in an affair situation because maybe something they experienced in their childhood that gave them such a vulnerable heart for people who are in need. And so I just want to help. I just want to help. And how can I serve? And how can I be there for this particular person? And before you know it, one thing leads to another, boom, full-blown affair. We've seen this happen time and time and time again. And so a lot of times a person feels like they're not needed. They're not wanted. There's no role for me to play here. And so because that aspect of my personhood is not being fulfilled, I either intentionally or unconsciously or accidentally slip into relationship, which I did not prepare that anything would be anything more than what it was, but there was an attraction. The attraction was, oh, somebody in need. I'm drawn to that. So now that becomes my new project. That becomes my new obsession because now I feel needed. Something within me is fulfilled as I can serve someone else. So that's an example of an attachment pattern. Let's give you another one. In your relationship, for instance, you want to be in charge of, whether you want to or not, you are a person who is in charge of everything. You're the leader, you make all the decisions, you do all the planning, you're dotting every I, crossing every T, you're wearing multiple hats. It's just like you have all this responsibility on your life in this role in the home with the family. And so somehow you find yourself connected to someone who now takes care of you, where you don't have to worry about nothing. You don't have to make reservations. You don't have to make plans. It's all taken care of. Meals are ordered. You're like, oh my God, this is just so different. Oh my gosh, I can't get this in my own household. So there's a different attachment pattern that draws you. It's not like the person is better than, they're just different than. It's something different you experience with this particular person, and that draws you in. Maybe in your marriage, you're a person who rarely initiates, if you understand what I'm saying. But now in this affair relationship, you're the main assertive, aggressive one when it comes to physical connection because there's a different pattern. And so this is what becomes so challenging for a spouse when they're really unpacking the why of the affair and the nuances and the dynamic that exists. And it's just like, man, well, why didn't you tell me? Why couldn't I? Did tell you, but you didn't pay attention, or you didn't value it, or I didn't tell you because of XYZ. And so this is why we say communication is so critically important in a relationship, and you've got to be fluid and you got to be flexible and not so rigid, because at the end of the day, listen, I didn't lose who I was when I married you. There were aspects about me that made me uniquely me, and I've lost my sense of self because we got caught up in a dynamic that I guess was working, but there was still something missing. And so this is why it's important to have these conversations so that we can truly get to know who our spouse is, what they need, and to make sure we're doing our best to meet those particular needs so that the attraction remains strong in the relationship, so there's no need for a connection or an attraction outside of the relationship. Guys, we're talking about the Dangerous Partner Profile, Part 2. Stay right there. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. Listen, we have a couple comments I want to get to. Cleveland says, so true. Not needed. Does leave the door open when other spouse is competent and does not need you. Then we have Lisa, who said, you nailed it right on the head for me. I'm a self-sufficient person. I think my husband feels that there's nothing else he can do for me. And yes, in his past relationships, the partner was very needy. See, guys, we're not making this stuff up. This is just real stuff. Felicia says, bring able you meet those needs really does mean that you have to have those very transparent conversations. Being able, gotcha. Yeah, you got to have transparent conversations, guys. Like, you really have to know. And I think this leads into the question that Cleveland asked, how do boundaries play out with these doors if we are attracted by these other things? And I think she just said it. You have to have conversations. Like, at the end of the day, these videos, this series is something you want to sit down with your partner and talk about. Because as I've mentioned before, we all have, every human being has a dangerous partner profile. It doesn't mean that you're anywhere near having an affair or even have a desire for an affair. It doesn't mean anything like that. All it simply means is there are things that I enjoy. There are things that I would love to pursue. And guess what? How do we build a wall of protection around our marriage? By having a conversation about these things that we're attracted to. Being attracted to a thing doesn't mean that you're attracted to a person. You're attracted to a thing. But you find that thing in a person that may not exist in your spouse, right? And so at the end of the day, I guess there's two schools of thought that says, that's just not me. You need to love me for me. I ain't into that. It is what it is. You could take that approach, or you could say, okay, so this is what you really are attracted to. Like, I'm not really a sports person, but I mean, I don't mind sitting down with you and watching a game every now and then. I don't mind, going to a game every now and then, but I'm not going to be a diehard fan like you. Well, babe, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for you to be a diehard fan like me, but it would be nice if every now and then we could, you know? But when you're completely resistant and turned off and unwilling to engage, and it inhibits your spouse from enjoying that aspect of their life that they had prior to you, which is using hobbies as an example. I'm just simply saying having these conversations are critically important. And because we said I do and we are living life together, this is a part of my life that I want to experience. This is something that I have a need for, even in terms of personalities and attachment patterns. Listen, I love to laugh. I would love to laugh with you. You know, if you're the complete opposite of me, I feel like something's missing. What can we do to enhance this aspect of our relationship so that there's no temptation to go down paths that do not serve us? These are all relevant conversations that you need to have. But oftentimes spouses don't have these conversations. They tiptoe, tap dance, pussyfoot around the necessary things. And oftentimes affairs occur because there is a breakdown in communication at the end of the day. And this is why we have to be so clear. Communications is the number one tool that we need to master. And if we don't, we're always going to have problems that pop up everywhere. Lisa says, being self-sufficient and independent was the thing that my husband loved about me. So what changed? That's a good question. That's a good question. You know, interestingly enough, to that point, not necessarily about you as a person, but oftentimes the thing that draws us in, the things that we're attracted to, can become the things that become frustrating. Like at the end of the day, to want somebody who's strong and independent, yeah, but there's a positive application to that, and there could be a potentially negative application to that as well. You know, in life, things are a two-sided coin. You know, passion. I'm just a passionate person. And so when I'm passionate about something, I'm all in, and I got focus and intensity, and I'm there, and I could be your best advocate and your best partner. But when I'm passionate about something that I'm upset about, right? Your passion is still there. There's a positive application. There's a negative application. So even with strength, even with independence, there's a positive and the negative with anything. And so I think that if we're honest and we can have a conversation and really peel back the layers and reverse engineer and really self-reflect, we could see where things may have gone wrong in the relationship and what we need to do to get them right. I'm reading this in real time, guys. I don't know what this says, but it's kind of long. Yes, the hardest part of my spouse's affair is that the other woman did not care of having an affair with a married man, and that women stalked our home, social media, and yes, knew, but of course, was covering his butt. He has confessed, and we are in counseling, and yes, I'm very independent. The other woman is actually a stalker, not always, but have helped my spouse out in the garage when I could. So we are agreeing to work to a work day on our marriage and a discussion day. Awesome. Work day, play day. Work day, play day. Two foundational pillars that you should incorporate in your marriage every single week, because that will help get you unstuck and get you on a path to recovery. Listen, and if you go into counseling, awesome. You're doing the necessary work. Listen, guys, when an affair happens, it is not over. There's life after an affair. There's a lot that you can do to begin to restore your situation. And we want to encourage you today to say, find someone, wherever you are in the country, wherever you are in the world, find someone who is equipped to give you the guidance that you need to help transform your life and restore your relationship. And this is why we come on every single day, to give you a 30-minute dose that will help you. So listen, guys, we're ending the show, but we're going to pick up tomorrow and go to the next component, right, of the dangerous partner profile. So by the time we get through with this, you will have a deeper understanding of the why. The why is so critically important. This is the place where people get stuck. It's not just about the what. Yeah, I don't need the gory details all the time, or maybe we've already gone through the gory details and I don't need to know that anymore. But I'm tripping with the why. And if I could understand the why, it may help me to begin to heal. It may help me to begin to move forward. It may help me to get unstuck. And so it may help me to really come back together and build a connection with you and begin to do something uniquely different. Because the dangerous partner profile no longer has to be dangerous if the attraction exists within the marriage. And so that's what we're committed to. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay tuned. We're done, Madison.